there's so many ways to execute a vision. There's so many ways to execute your perceptions, or to create something that says what you're feeling and what you're seeing.
Right.
And it's really hard for me to create something only as a painting. Some things are meant to be paintings.
Right.
Some things are meant to be seen as a picture.
Right.
Some things are meant to be performance art and sung and felt.
And we got another plane. Yeah.
So funny. It's fine.
We are here at the lovely Wanawari with multi-talented, multidisciplinary, all the things, Miss Kimisha Turner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Same thing about you, bro.
Oh, appreciate it. So you are back in Seattle.
I am.
You recently moved to New Jersey.
I did.
Yeah. How has that transition been for you?
It's been really good. It's been a challenge for sure. As all transitions are, growing pains. But I think getting yourself in a different area code sometimes could be very eye-opening and also very humbling, but really good for my art soul. I'm from Olympia. I was born in Olympia.
Yeah.
But, went to Cornish, so Seattle area kind of thing. But yeah, and it's weird because it's like only the last few years where I really felt concentrated in the art world and everything. But now it's like, okay, well, let me do this on my own and let's figure out where this can be nationally.
Yes, absolutely.
And then hop back and forth and be able to do stuff back over here, because that's the reason I'm back here, is to do more art. So
yeah,
it's been a cool challenge. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is a real thing of like, and I feel like all artists or people just in general from Seattle, from this area, who are trying to establish themselves outside of here, it can be quite a challenge.
Yeah.
Actually. And let's go ahead and wait for this.
Yeah.
Since the mural and since, moving to Jersey and, you're starting this new life on the East Coast, you're obviously having to find new and creative ways to, like you said, capture that audience, document your process and your practice and things of that nature. And one of the ways that you're doing that now is through Patreon. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about what folks can expect from Kimisha Turner Patreon?
Yes, absolutely. With the Patreon, you see backstage kind of, what I'm creating, what's next. Also have a say in some of the pieces.
Yeah, interesting.
The cool thing about Patreon as well is that the longer you stay in a certain tier, you get some goodies that are created by me and that are exclusive to our patrons.
Yeah.
We talk about like mental health is so important, and it's just becoming more and more prevalent, thank God. I think art is part of mental health.
Yes.
And watching people create and how they get their own stuff out there is really, really cathartic.
Yeah.
So I think Patreon is a really great way for you to see that and then also support that artist. It's so important to support art.
So important. Being in an area that is so well resourced, you can get comfortable here too. Yeah. And I think that is probably an adage to that challenge of trying to get your artwork seen outside of it, because it's so easy to just kind of do things and just do it forever and just be here. But the goal is to, connect with people outside of where you're from.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the big challenges I have to overcome sometimes personally, because I get so nervous when I meet new people. Right. I don't always put myself out there, and so moving is definitely like an ultimate challenge for me to like, okay, you're in the deep water now. What are you going to do with that? And, I think the pandemic, honestly, too, that gave us all that extra challenge. Was like, you have a concentrated audience. What do you do with it now? You know, and I think there's some really amazing team members of VMC that have crushed that.
Oh yeah.
You know, doing their own vlogs and all that, YouTubes and everything. And so that's beautiful to watch and emulate and witness. And so that's kind of where I'm kind of going, is like, okay, well, what do I do now with the resources of YouTube, Instagram? You know, I'm older. I don't use all these apps as much. I don't have time to use all these apps as much, but that's just where technology is, and that's where social media and social art and all that stuff is. You know, NFT. I don't know what to do with NFTs, but I know I should do something with NFTs, and I should do it soon.
Right.
So what do I do? You know, so you know, we're the generation, or the generation after us as well, are the ones that have access to all this information,
Right.
and all these resources. It's like, okay, well, how do I take advantage of all this? And it's the beauty of art.
Yeah.
You could be really creative with all these different kinds of avenues and facets and everything. So yeah, I've been very blessed that I have some really supportive people that have my back, and I know not everybody has that, and I've been doing it for 20 years or so, so I have some history here in Seattle, so that's been such a blessing. To the point where I can come back and do work. But now it's like, okay, I'm competing against myself. What am I going to do that sets myself apart? But also, like, how am I going to stay in my lane and not kill myself over trying to do everything? Like, I haven't made anything new in a while. I've been kind of just figuring out how I can repurpose what I have just to build an audience. But people really want to see what your mind is, like, what's going on in your creativity, and why do you do things. I think sometimes I forget that part.
Let's talk about your art. Let's talk about Kimisha Turner, the creative.
I was always doing art as a kid, and my uncle was very, you know, he was very problematic. He lived with us. So there's some trauma that I definitely worked through artwork wise with that, but I have to give him some credit that he maybe every 5 years would make a painting. And his paintings were really kind of dark and weird and creepy. And as a kid, he had this one painting of a Hawaiian woman that her eyes literally looked like they were following you when you walked past them. And I was so scared because it was just hanging over the toilet. And I'd just be like, you know? But I remember as a kid thinking, I hate this painting, but also that's really cool that a painting is making me feel, I know it's not gonna jump out at me, I know it's not gonna hurt me, but this picture made me feel so like uneasy. How do you do that, you know? But that kind of sparked something. And then my mom was definitely an amazing support. She was my best friend, and like would just really encourage me, and so I started drawing and copying like tigers and stuff. Big cats were my thing, and then looking at magazines and drawing people, and just starting to build a little portfolio. And then in schools I would do like art for the yearbooks and everything, but never took it seriously. Just it was my thing to kind of get away from whatever. And then as I graduated high school and was about to join the Army, my mom saw that there was an audition for Cornish happening, and me and my sister and my mom went down, and I got accepted that day. And it saved me from going to the Army, and also 9/11 that happened like a month later, so I didn't have to be deployed or anything. So it was like all these things that were lining up of like, wow, years of building a portfolio. She's like, you have a portfolio, you should just go show it to the art people, just see what they say. And so it was amazing how serendipitous kinds of things happen, because if I hadn't saved all that stuff, I would have nothing to show. And then when I have joined, you know, Cornish, I had this very surface level understanding of art. Was just, oh, it's just a pretty picture or a pretty photo. It wasn't, I didn't understand the conceptual part of, you know, making art and why everything has its place, really. And how to understand different types of art that maybe at first it doesn't make sense to you, and then you realize, oh my God, that's the deepest thing I've ever seen, you know? One piece I cried into vial over days, and I wrote in a little journal. So I collected tears over grieving, and then put it in a book, and carved a book out, and then, you know, grew sugar crystals out of parents' ashes. I don't feel like me painting myself crying. For me, other painters who are incredible at what they do could absolutely get that. you know, but for me, I don't think it would have come across as powerfully if I hadn't literally used my own hair and my own tears and my own ashes and all that stuff as part of the pieces to say, hey, I want you to really value this piece because it has literal ancestors in them and baked into them, and my tears, I want you to connect my process with the end result and why that was so painful but also powerful and cathartic, and I think all those things create why grieving is so important and why we should honor it, right?
What you just described of your artistic practice and how you kind of center the viewer's experience is really powerful, you know, and I think it speaks to just like who you are as a person and how, you know, welcoming and inviting you are when it comes to connecting with people, you know? I mean, you talked a little bit about like your upbringing and things of that nature, but can you tell us a little bit more about why you think you are that way?
My mom was just the biggest supporter, you know, ever. And it was me and my mom, my sister that were just like bosom buddies.
Yeah.
So I think having her have our back constantly and her always being so welcoming to just open door policy, talk to me about anything, literally anything.
Yeah.
I think her kind of bringing that out of me, like, hey, do what you do, you know, fly away, do your thing. That was a huge confidence booster. My dad was extremely social, so I got a lot of that from him too.
Nice.
When I was younger, I always said, I'm so mad that I'm never gonna know every single person in the world. I don't feel that way anymore, but I understood from a young age how different everybody is.
Yeah.
And that I'll never understand your perspective unless I understand you, you know?
You talked a little bit about parenting.
Yeah.
And you have a very special son.
I do.
Mr. Malcolm.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how having him and raising him has affected your artistic practice?
Yeah. He's such an amazing human, and he's so creative, and he has autism and ADHD, and that in itself is a really beautiful perspective of life. Like, it's a challenge, don't get me wrong, for sure, but it's also like, what goes on in your head? Like, how did you come up with that? I don't understand. This is amazing. Like, if I just had an hour in that boy's head, like, it's just incredible. And so that inspires me because he is extremely confident in his creation and his storytelling, and it's pretty incredible. And so to be able to bring him on projects or show him like, mommy's doing this and mommy's doing that, and mom's an artist, and you know, so that he feels confident that he could be a creative and make money at it. That's really important. Like growing up here in Seattle and having a mom that was born in Korea. She's Korean and black. But we didn't really know until we just did like a DNA thing that she was actually black. We knew she was black, but we didn't know she was black. Because she was raised by a white woman, she didn't have connections to her black culture at all. So me and my sister were not raised with connections to our black culture, really. My dad is black, but you know, they were divorced and everything, and so we didn't really get to experience that until we came to New Jersey to visit family, and then we're like, oh good, you know, we get to experience that part of ourselves, but always felt disconnected. So when I had Malcolm, I had this sense of like duty to like be like, okay, babe, we're gonna learn some more things together. You know, I don't want you to grow up not feeling like you don't have a connection to your black roots, to your heritage, to your culture. Mom doesn't know everything. I admit it. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to find my own self. I'm still understanding what blackness is to me, because I think there's a thing in our culture where, you know, you're not black enough. And it's really destructive because you feel like you have to be a certain way to be black. And so for my art with Malcolm, it was like, you're a black boy. I need you to feel like a king. Like, I need you to feel confident, because society will tell you otherwise. And they might kill you over it. And they might hurt, you know, put you in jail over it. And so it's important that we keep reiterating, like, who are you? You're a strong black boy or a strong black man. and you're smart and you're fun and you're loving and you're not a threat.
Yeah.
And but you are a threat. You know what I mean? Like it's this balance of like trying to get him to understand, and it's a constant. I want to figure out how to be a millionaire Black women artist for me, and also help other Black women artists become fucking billionaire or whatever. Yeah. And it's honestly just the principle.
Real talk. It's principalities in this. Real, for real.
Not
for
that
real.
I don't believe that if you're well off that means somebody else has to be not well off. And I know that that's kind of how money works, but I personally believe like there's more than enough for everybody if you have that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have to be a bajillionaire or anything, but I do deserve to be well off.
Yeah.
I deserve to be able to provide for my son.
For sure.
To live a really happy life and to pay all the bills and not struggle.
And to thrive and not just be surviving. And I think that is what this time really has been. These past couple of years have really shown me and like slapped me in the face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of like, we've just been surviving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the job, the 9 to 5, that cycle, it's just enough for you to keep going long enough for the institution to be able to thrive. But when everything stopped, the whole world stopped. I don't think people really focus enough on that aspect of what the pandemic was.
Right.
The entire world stopped, and that has never happened.
Right.
This time has definitely shown me, like, in so many different ways, the importance of what we do.
Yeah.
And how, like, the minute those businesses got boarded up, we were the ones
that came in.
Yeah, that came in. You know what I mean? So like you said, put some respect on our name. Like our visual artists are really out here shouldering the world. Right. In a very real way. And like, you know, honestly, music don't be hitting the same. Right. Movies don't hit the same. Right. Food, sometimes it don't hit the same. But the art,
the visual art, you can't have all of that.
Exactly. But the way the visual art is hitting right now, you can't deny it.
Right.
And you are absolutely right that we need to be appreciated and respected in that caliber. Kimisha Turner, I have to say, before we wrap all this up, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
For being you, honestly. And like, you've always like just been a light and been who you've described yourself to be, and like putting yourself out there, making mistakes and learning from them, and allowing other people to be on that journey with you.
Thank you.
I think that's what makes your art so powerful. You know what I mean?
Appreciate that. Seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking about like the I Am processions, and you know, the pieces that you've made over the years, the mural for Seattle Art Museum and the BLM mural, and you know how that's connected us. And like, you know, I think that you are definitely a force to be reckoned with when it comes to art, especially art by Black women, you know. So I look forward to your journey.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I you, darling. Seriously.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes.